Hey guys, Edgar here, Guns for Everyone. I'm going to do something that I normally don't do and maybe do a different spin on it, but that's jump on a bandwagon. I try my best not to jump on bandwagons. As an instructor, I never jumped on the banning P320s bandwagon for a variety of reasons. And historically, we haven't gotten into the bandwagons of the news cycles. If you notice, every other instructor, every other person who's got a online presence, whether small or big, they basically just regurgitate the information from one another. As soon as one says one thing about one thing, everybody's talking about it. I often make fun of it, how nobody, I make the joke, somebody should say something about this particular subject because everybody's talking about it. That's often the joke, but I am going to jump on the bandwagon this time about this thing right here, the Sig P320. The Sig P320 is all over social media right now, and I want to have a conversation about it. But I want to talk about how it's your fault. I want to talk about how you're to blame for the Sig P320. Every time I'm doing a class, I talk about, or the conversation comes around about how to choose a gun for self defense, and I talk a lot about science. I emphasize the conversation around science. Science is more important than your feelings, and it seems like every time I talk about this, or I ask the question like, "What do you think is important for self defense?" As an educator, just trying to get students to interact and have a conversation, and it never fails. Students always gravitate towards the bias. While I want to make sure it feels good, I've never met anybody in a self-defense situation that said, "Oh, the gun just felt right in my hand, so I was able to defend myself super awesomely." Comfort is another buzzword that gets said a lot. Preference is another buzzword that gets said a lot, and that's why you're to blame for the Sig P320. I don't have enough information. I don't think the SIG P320 is as dangerous as humans make it out to be. I think SIG SIG caters to the douchery. I've said that since day one. You can go find videos from when this gun first came out. How I told humans this gun is not an awesome gun, but it has a smooth trigger press, so people will gravitate towards it because Sig did a fantastic job at marketing to the douchery. They've always done that to a large degree. They cater to the douchery. Now, what do I mean by that? They cater to feelings. They cater to the emotion. They cater to their understanding that you want feelings and emotions, not stuff that you can prove. The Sig P320, we've always talked about how it's got a, if we compare them to other firearms, the bore axis on these firearms a little bit high. What does that mean in science? That's a moment of inertia. If you don't know what the moment of inertia is, go Google that shit. I can present it to you guys really quick, as evidence to those of you guys watching this stuff. Is the moment of inertia, boom, the moment of inertia, there we go. For those of you guys again watching, is the moment of inertia is a measurement of how resistant an object is to the change in its rotational motion. So there is an equation, sorry. It's this one right here. Um, Basically the distance from where the energy is going to be at from the point of pivot, which is my wrist when I'm shooting the firearm. So it causes more rotational inertia, more rotational energy. I'm sorry, rotational motion. I talk about this in a separate video, but people don't want to listen to that. People don't want to listen to that. I've talked so much about how it doesn't have a tab safety on the trigger. It doesn't have the trigger safety. That's a drop safety. That is not primarily so that you don't press the trigger if you don't intend to now, but it does help towards that. But people don't want to hear that. People just want to hear how it has a smooth trigger press. The competition world, the douchery world, the recreational shooting world has convinced the self-defense world that these things are important. And Sig Sauer made a decision for whatever reason to take all of that stuff that you guys were talking about on the internet and created a gun that was less than ideal. Now, again, I don't believe the Sig P320 on his own is a dangerous gun. I think a lot of humans are not. We have stickers on shit for a reason. We have warning labels on shit for a reason. Is because once you have a multitude of humans using a product, bad shit happens, and that's Sig. You have millions of humans using the Sig, and I would venture out and say that out of those millions and millions and millions, um, only the handful of people who have had bad experiences with him are going to have bad experiences with him. From a numbers perspective, that's pretty fucking low. The design of the Sig P320 has been talked about a lot. I don't want to dig deep into that other than it is a trigger that was made to be a smooth trigger press for the douchery, to please the douchery, to please the feelings of people who say, I choose a gun based off of feelings, and I want it to feel good, and I want it to have a smooth trigger press, and boom, you got it. But then they put it into a gun that was meant for self defense, or at least that's the way they packaged it. You get something that was designed more for competition, but we're selling it to the defensive world. And those two worlds really don't mix a whole lot. A little bit here and there, they mix, but not a ton. So that's why this whole thing about Sig P320, you can blame it on Sig P320. They should have had the integrity to educate. And I think this is the responsibility that Sig has, and the responsibility that gun manufacturers have, is to educate you guys properly and tell you guys what you actually need in a defensive gun, and tell you guys what you actually need in a competition gun or a hunting gun or a recreational gun or a plinking gun, based off of science, based off of empirical evidence. Because if not, if they're just going off of your emotions, then this is what you get. This is, you get a gun with no tab safety, with really wonky fucking tolerances, because it's a fire control group that you slip in there. That's kind of weird. I talked about this in a previous video, how the tolerances in this gun allowed dirt to get into my fire control group, and it just wasn't resetting properly. Ironically, I had the opposite problem. This fucking gun wouldn't shoot, or had a really tough time shooting because dirt was getting caught up in there. Go fucking figure. So I don't believe this is an amazing design. It's made for the douchery. It's made for people who drive Toyota Tacomas. Um, they have lifted Toyota Tacomas and go overlanding. Those humans will never use that truck for what it's intended to do, rock crawling and really heavy fucking off-roading. That's why they go overlanding. It just looks pretty. It feels pretty. It makes you feel awesome. You're part of the bros. You get to go to the beach in your fucking short shorts, fluorescent short shorts, tattooed up, no shirt on, nipple rings. I'm talking about dudes here, and you get to go hang out with the bros while you drink a Truly or a White Claw on the beach and do some really dumb shit. That's who this gun's for, is the bros. This firearm was made for the bros. And listen, I like douchey shit. I own the fucking thing. I own the fucking thing. But I think there's a place where we admit, hey, this is douchey. This is my side that just likes dumb shit for no fucking reason, and it's just fun or whatever. But I understand its role. This gun is not a self defense gun. It's a gun that I would take to the range and I pew pew with, and I have fun, and it's there. I don't even take it to classes so that students can borrow it. Not because of the safety stuff, not because I'm afraid it's going to go off in somebody's holster. I'm not afraid of that because I haven't modified it. I haven't changed the grip module to the fucking Combat Wilson one. Like I haven't done any of that shit. So I'm not worried about that. It's just not a gun that I would recommend for self defense. I've always said this. The trigger, although it feels smooth and it feels awesome, it's not for a defensive gun. It's not for a defensive gun. But why did they do it that way? Well, because again, you asked for it. You guys keep saying bias shit. You do not break away from your bias. You do not break away from the preference, and you don't step away from the it feels good. You have to step away from that shit. You have to understand that choosing a gun for self-defense involves science, moment of inertia, the third law of motion, the to a certain degree, the second law, well, to a large degree, to probably the most important degree, I guess now that I'm thinking about it, is the second law of motion. So this all comes into play, moment of force. This all comes into play, but people don't want to hear that. And I get it. Most people don't even know what the fuck that is. Um, and that's legit, right? Like that's not my thing. That's not my thing. Science isn't my thing. Whatever. I get it. I understand it. But just because you don't know how it works, doesn't mean that it's not there and that it doesn't exist. It's there. It exists. All of that science exists. The Keel principle exists. That's real. That is 100% real. This gun should have never existed. This gun should have never existed. This gun should have been different. Now, if they came out with this and it had the trigger safety and maybe the fire control group was a little bit different. They weren't so focused on having a competition trigger in it or a smooth trigger in it, and they focused more on the self defense. Then yeah, fantastic. But they didn't do that. They focused on your feelings. They focused on your words that you said on the internet, your comfort, stuff that in a self defense matters very little. Instructors talk about comfort because it's easy. It's easy to say that stuff because we become used to saying comfort, but we are afraid as instructors. Well, I'm not, but a lot of instructors are afraid to tell students like, "No, you're wrong. That's feelings and your emotions are not correct. They're real to you, but they're not real to science, and that's important." Sig P320. Um, I don't give a fuck if I get called out or not. And I get it. A lot of tragic shit has happened because of this gun, the Sig P320. Like I understand that. It's happened with the gun that you carry. Your gun has killed people. Your gun has done some shady shit because people use it incorrectly. And we can't get away from that. We just need to be better as humans so that there's less tragedy. The Sig P320 was a pretty shaky design to begin with, and not necessarily dangerous, just a weird fucking design, just a weird design all the way around. But Sig made a gun that you guys wanted. It's not a dangerous gun. Um, it's not an awesome gun. I've been saying that for a very long time, but it is a gun that exists. It is a gun that came out, and I will stand by this idea that they were just doing marketing. They just found out that you will not listen to reason, you will not listen to science, you will listen to feelings. And I promise you, in 5 years, when all of this shit goes away and the SIG P320 starts all over again, or some PR shit happens, another gun's gonna make a stupid fucking gun like this based off of your feelings. It kind of already exists. It's called a Staccato. But you guys won't listen about the Staccato. By the way, if you want to win a Staccato, go onto the thing. I mean, we're just playing the game. We're at this point where just like people will buy tickets for Staccato, so go buy it. Like we need money, and you want a Staccato. Staccato is a great competition gun. It's not a good self defense gun. It isn't, and I've never been shy about saying that shit. We just gave away a Vepr, and very few tickets sold. We made a little bit of money. but not a ton. So we're like, well, fuck it, let's do a staccato. People seem to love the staccatos because they have great marketing. You guys don't care about good designs. You guys do not care about awesomeness. That's why you own iPhones. iPhone isn't super awesome. It's an okay phone at best, but they have great marketing. They know your feelings and your emotions, and they know how to sell to you, and that's a problem. We as consumers, we don't ask enough questions, and I get it. Some of us don't know what questions to ask, and that's fair. That's valid. It's 100% understandable. We don't know what to ask, but science is always real. You should question this shit. You should seriously question it. When something is super popular, especially with dudes who have tattoos and no shirts on and they wear tack vest and all that stuff, like especially when those people like it, it's probably just a fad. It's probably just a cool factor, and maybe you should second guess it. So I blame the Sig P320 100% on the consumer. Not you personally, like you, because I don't know you. I don't know who you are, but when I say it's your fault, I mean collectively, consumers. It's your fault, the SIG P320. And I hope we learn from this. I hope from here on out we start asking more questions. We start asking better questions. But that's who's at fault with the SIG P320. Now, it's kind of fucked that a lot of companies understand how to market to you, and they try and make guns that touch your emotions and make you feel something instead of telling you the way it is, instead of educating you. I think that's the challenge to gun manufacturers is no, let's educate consumers on what they're actually getting. Let's educate them. Let's not just make them feel awesome inside. They have the fucking engineers. These engineers understand 100% how science works. They understand the moment of inertia. They understand there's a lot of weird guns that have came out that have played to the moment of inertia, and they've understood it. It's just very expensive for them to do, and or they have shitty marketing teams. But physics is correct. One gun that is made for defensive humans is the Avidity Arms PD-10. Very small company out of North Carolina. The PD-10 is a great compromise of all the important stuff for self-defense. It's thin, but because it's so thin, you can't have a double stack. And a lot of people are like, "Well, I need the double stack because Sig P320 said so." Ha 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 ha. But that's it. Is people don't understand what is real and what is not. They just go off of feelings and emotions. The data shows, and you can go look at the fucking data, that a 20 round magazine isn't necessarily a thing in a good guy bad guy fight. I get it. Why you're gonna? Well, it might. Well, yeah, it might. It's on the edge of plausible and possible. It's definitely there. It's worth noting, but carry a second magazine. But the Avidity Arms is a great gun, but because it's a 10 round magazine in a 9mm or a 12 magazine in a 30 super carry, a lot of people discount it right a fucking way because again, marketing. The SIG manufacturing type have convinced you that a double stack 15 round magazine is the way to go. And there's nothing wrong with that if it's a great gun, if it the gun makes sense, absolutely. But not just for the sake of saying, well, I've got a 13 round magazine, just for the sake of it. But that's marketing. That is marketing. Avidity Arms doesn't have the marketing budget to compete with Smith and Wesson and Glock and all that stuff. So I wish that these companies, and this would be my challenge to all of these companies, is learn the science. If you make the gun, learn the fucking science and educate humans on what a defensive gun ought to be, what a competition gun ought to be, what a recreational gun ought to be, that type of stuff. Because a defensive gun should not have this type of trigger. It shouldn't. We're finding that shit out right now, that people don't know how to deal with guns like this because you just flooded the fucking market with a really weird fucking design. and never educated the humans on the difference between shit that is meant for the range and shit that is made to defend your life. There's a fucking difference. We can argue how big of a difference. We can debate that, but a difference nonetheless. And I don't think companies do a good enough job at educating humans how to do that. Instructors do a horrendous job at educating humans on how to choose guns. You don't know how many fucking instructors I've heard tell students that the best way to choose a gun is just do whatever feels best. The fuck does that mean? Like that's not even teaching you anything. That's just basically telling you, hey, you don't know shit about guns, so go choose a gun based off of what you don't know. That's fucking dumb. That's why they're in your class, so that you can educate them, and telling them just do whatever you feel is best. But that's how they sell you. An instructor who isn't challenging you on your information, and a student who doesn't challenge the instructor on their information, we're not creating a better environment. We're just staying stagnant because we're just fucking circle jerking each other, making each other feel better about what we already believe. We turn a class into a confirmation bias, or a room that we just look for information bias, right? We're just there to confirm what we already believe, and that's not right. Choosing a gun for self-defense is not just go do whatever you feel is best. That's how you end up with this right here. So I hope we learn. I hope we learn that we ought to do better. I hope that we challenge these companies to educate us on how their product actually works. They're all a little bit different. They kind of work off of the same principle, but some of them have a skimmer like technology. Some of them are a more traditional striker fired, and I think it's pretty awesome if they actually educated humans. But they're afraid because that means I get to challenge the information that you already believe in. And when I challenge your information, it makes you feel uncomfortable. And when you feel uncomfortable, you're not as apt to buy my product. And that's a lack of integrity. That's is 100% a lack of integrity. I'd much rather challenge what you believe and show you the numbers and show you the data and show you the science and get you to fully understand how this shit works, and then later you understand how it works, so now you can use it correctly and less likely that there's going to be an accident with the product that I sell. Like that's the route that they should take, but unfortunately you are way too big on your feelings and your emotions and just confirming your bias, that they come out with shit like this. This is your fault. This right here is your fault. And that shit sucks. That shit sucks. We need to do better. We gotta expect more from each other, and we gotta expect more from people who make guns for self defense. At any rate, hopefully this shit made sense, and even if it doesn't, I felt good about it. So share this stuff. Tell your friends about that stuff. Come do the comments. Have friends comment. Send the shit to Sig so that they could do better. They'll ignore it, but whatever. Anyways, see you later, guys.